The U.S. tests deadly laser weapon on its fighter jets. The service is working on a own laser weapon, SHIELD, a pod-mounted laser that will protect fighters from incoming missiles. The system will likely be used, at first, anyway, to protect older fighters that can't take advantage of stealth to hide from the enemy. The system is called SHIELD, or Self-Protect High Energy Laser Demonstrator. National Defense reports SHIELD is envisioned as a pod-mounted laser developed by the Air Force Research Laboratory, with support from Lockheed Martin. Mounted on the fuselage or wing of a fighter jet, TLWS could shoot down incoming air-to-air and surface-to-air missiles. Lockheed Martin is working on a separate weapon, Tactical Airborne Laser Weapon System, TLWS, will use program data from SHIELD. Today's fighter jets are largely limited to passive defenses against incoming missiles. Pilots can take evasive action to try and fly outside an incoming missile sensor arc, launch flares to distract an infrared missile seeker, or spread strips of aluminum foil, known as chaff, to confuse a missile guided by radar. A laser would be the first real, active, anti-missile defense in the world of air combat, actively trying to shoot a missile down. SHIELD and TLWS will be pod-mounted systems, meaning they will take up a station on a fighter jet typically reserved for bombs, missiles, or sensor pods. That makes them a bad fit for stealthy aircraft such as the F-22 Raptor or F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, as the pods will break up the plane's carefully minimized radar signature. That said, both planes already have a missile defense system already built in, stealth technology. Instead, lasers such as SHIELD and TLWS will likely go on fighters unable to hide from their adversaries, such as the Air Force's F-15E, F-15C, and new F-15EX Eagle fighters, F-16 Fighting Falcons, and perhaps even A-10C Warthog attack jets. Trading the ability to carry one more missile or bomb for a laser that could shoot down many incoming missiles is a no-brainer. A laser weapon, paired with existing chaff and flare defenses, could very well someday be controlled by an R2-D2 type artificial intelligence tasked with defending their warplanes from missile attack. Lasers will be useful airborne weapons. A laser can be powered by the airplane's engine, removing the need for an onboard gun magazine and providing a theoretically unlimited number of shots. Laser energy travels at the speed of light, removing ballistics from the targeting equation and making it impossible to dodge. However, lasers do have a few downsides. Atmospheric effects, particularly water moisture and smoke particles, quickly dilute a laser's strength. The farther a laser beam travels, the weaker it grows. Furthermore, the laser must be focused on the fast-moving missile long enough to have an effect. Unlike missiles, whose high explosive warheads deliver a lot of energy in a single devastating explosion, a laser projects a steady stream of concentrated light that heats the target until something fails or explodes. A missile traveling at ultra-fast speeds could prove a difficult target upon which to focus a beam. A laser defense system like TLWS or SHIELD is harder than it looks. The system must pack the ability to detect, track, and shoot down incoming missiles into a single pod-mounted package. The laser must be powerful enough to fry an incoming missile's electronics or cause damage to the skin or control systems, inducing aerodynamic failure. The power level of the TLWS laser isn't stated, but a recent Defense News report says it's in the tens of kilowatts. This is just the beginning for aircraft lasers. Eventually, laser weapon will go on almost all warplanes, from bombers to aerial tankers, giving them some form of active protection. As lasers become more powerful, they will become increasingly capable of engaging larger, more complex targets, like enemy aircraft. Lasers will also become useful in engaging ground targets and, some experts predict, capable of shooting down ballistic missiles shortly after launch. Warplanes have been armed with guns for more than 100 years, but it's increasingly looking like guns were mere placeholders for laser weapons as the ideal direct-fire aircraft weapon. While it's important not to sell the airborne laser as the ultimate weapon capable of doing everything, it does indeed have a very wide array of theoretical uses. But how much of that is actually practical and affordable? We'll have to eventually find out. Lasers destined for fighter jets are now being tested in the Air Force's wind tunnels. Ahead of putting experimental directed energy weapons onto its fighter jets, the U.S. Air Force is testing how these systems will operate at high speed and high altitude by trialing them in wind tunnels. Equipping fighters with directed energy, or DE, weapons, which use high-energy lasers or microwaves to engage threats, is a long-standing Air Force ambition, but one that has suffered from some well-documented delays. The latest wind tunnel work may help address some of the problems encountered so far. The Air Force has announced that recent DE systems tests have taken place in the 4-foot transonic wind tunnel, or 4T, belonging to the aerodynamics branch of Arnold Engineering Development Complex, AEDC, at Arnold Air Force Base, Tennessee. By experimenting with a DE system in a wind tunnel of this type, it's possible to assess how the weapon behaves and it encounters shockwaves left by the aircraft carrying it, as well as other disturbances that might affect the weapon's energy beam and prevent it from engaging the target properly. Using the 4T, engineers should be able to explore what happens to a DE weapon in the airflow when the host aircraft is operating at speeds of up to Mach 2.0, as well as at simulated altitudes ranging from sea level up to 98,000 feet. It's unclear what parameters have been tested so far, but the Air Force has confirmed that the 4T has already been used to simulate a laser-toting fighter jet flying at supersonic speeds. Integrating the DE systems on aircraft has obvious benefits, but also creates challenges, especially at higher speeds, admitted Dr. Rich Roberts, chief of the Aerodynamics Branch Store Separation Section at Arnold Air Force Base. Nevertheless, with the Air Force still hopeful of migrating DE systems onto high-performance fighters in the not-too-distant future, the service is hoping to iron out problems in the wind tunnel before integrating these systems onto actual aircraft. The effort so far has taken around 8 years, according to the Air Force, and has focused on the Aero Isolation Measurement System, or AMS, which allows this kind of DE testing in wind tunnels. Simply put, this system transmits a laser to the model, uses a miniaturized optical bench of sorts inside the model, then uses fiber optics to pipe the data to a wavefront sensor system, Roberts explained. From there, we can analyze data that tells us how the laser was impacted by the tunnel flow field around the model. In particular, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, is keen to reduce the impact of high-speed flow over a turret armed with a DE weapon in what is described as flow mitigation. So far, the Air Force has developed an aerodynamic fence that protects the DE system from the turbulent airflow over the turret that contains it. The result was, according to Roberts, a significant improvement in beam quality. Beyond the AIMS equipment, the AEDC is working on the Integrated Directed Energy Aero-Optical Surrogate, or IDEAS, which will provide a 1:4 scale model of an F-15 fighter that will be used to test laser pods in a wind tunnel. Acceptance testing for IDEAS hardware is due to begin later this year. While this all furthers the ambition of Air Force fighters mounting DE pods capable of defending them against incoming missiles, it should be recalled that, not so long ago, it was anticipated that a full-scale F-15 would be flying with a demonstrator weapon of this type in 2021. That pod was the Self-Protect High-Energy Laser Demonstrator Program, or SHIELD, which has now been delayed by 2 years, with flight testing aboard an F-15 now planned for 2023.